Once again, listening to the recording had transported me into what I can only describe as my own memories. As completely insane as that sounds, I realized some aggressive research was in order. A brief search confirmed the facts of McKinley's assassination. 2 shots fired from a revolver wielded by deluded anarchist Leon Cholgos. 1 bullet recovered and 1 bullet inexplicably missing. Death by, again, inexplicably, botulinum toxin. Right after McKinley appeared to be well on the road to recovery. Uncovering the circumstances of Madame Koslova's life and death took a lot more digging. After scrubbing through endless obituary archives for 1906 New York, I turned up a short but sensational piece in the New York World, a scandal sheet specializing in the yellow journalism pioneered by its owner, Joseph Pulitzer. A psychic medium of considerable renown amongst New York's highest social circles. Madame Valeria Koslova had died a terrifying and agonizing death that reduced her to a pile of smoldering ash in her own bedroom, in what experts determined to be a rare and deadly occurrence of spontaneous human combustion. These 2 confirmations gave me some sense of relief, as bizarre as that sounds. However, there was one more test to run before I was ready to concede that I wasn't just having a full-on psychotic break.
Mr. Peters! Josh!
Professor Strasser! Yo!
Can we talk to you after?
No. You go. I'll be right there.
No, man, go. I'll catch up. Yes.
Professor! Hey! What can I do you for?
Something I thought you might be able to help me with. Here, come inside.
No promises, but I'll send her a message and see if I can set you up.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, here's the thing. She's pretty random as humans go, not all that well, socialized, if you know what I mean, so just be warned.
Okay, got it.
Cool. See you later. Oh, and, don't tell her you got the gramophone from me, okay? I kind of borrowed it from her, but I guarantee she hasn't missed it yet. You'll see what I mean.
Okay. So now I was headed to see one Nomi Bernard, Josh's step-aunt, a woman he called his fairy godmother of all things sound and tech-related. The way he described her sounded like a cross between a muse and the Medusa. At first glance, this didn't seem like the most family-friendly neighborhood. So I was surprised to see the front door open. I made my way up the stairs, past a tangle of rusted porch furniture. Hello? Miss Bernard? It's Josh's professor, Gabe Strasser.
Down here.
At the end of the hallway, I saw an open basement door. I assumed the voice was coming from there. Obstacle course doesn't begin to describe my route down the hallway.
Oops.
Tech Hoarder's Paradise starts to convey the sheer amount of stuff piled to the ceiling on either side. Hundreds of pieces of sound-related machinery of every vintage, in various states of disrepair and disassembly.
Down here.
Coming! I made my way down the stairs. The walls were hung with parts and machinery covering every square inch. Oh. Sorry.
For Christ's sake, just get down here. I don't have that much time.
Nomi Bernard stood hunched over a U-shaped arrangement of makeshift wood and metal work tables, piled so high with stuff that I had to peer around it to see her.
Oh.
Her short grey hair stood straight up from a massive brow.
Oh, damn. Ouch. God damn it. Son of a...
She had one pair of glasses perched on her nose.
Great.
2 more hanging from chains around her neck, another on top of her head, and welder's goggles wedged under her chin.
Miss Bernard?
Nomi. Just Nomi.
Of course, Nomi.
I meant it when I said I don't have much time. Now, where is it? Josh said you had a wax cylinder you wanted verified. Where is it?
Oh, right. Hang on. Here it is. There you go.
Jesus, just give it here. It's not the goddamn Holy Grail.
She had it out of my hands before I could blink, shaking it out of its case.
Careful, it's...
Oh, the real thing.
It is. I know. But what I want to know is...
Yes.
Can you tell if it's an original recording? In other words...
In other words, is it an intact original or has it been shaved down and re-recorded over?
Exactly.
Okay, let's take a look. But first, let me have a listen.
No. Sorry, do you have to in order to be sure?
No. I can just measure it.
Good. Okay, good. Let's just measure it.
Fine.
As I watched like an anxious mother hen, she clamped the cylinder onto a freestanding spindle and set about measuring it with several different sets of calipers.
Calculating that equals...
Scribbling her findings on the pad next to her.
15 micrometers. Carry the one. It's original.
It is? And not
Not a re-recording, no. A virgin recording, likely from the mid-1900s. You gonna tell me what's on it?
No. But thank you. Really. Thank you.
Okay.
She carefully slid the cylinder back into its case.
Like I said, I'm busy. You can see yourself out.
And with that, she pulled the welder's goggles up over her face and picked up a small blowtorch. I started toward the basement steps.
Hey,
I turned back.
Josh is a good kid. He knows his stuff. He put that gramophone together out of spare parts.
He did? Oh, right. Yes, he did.
Let him know if you need anything else.
Thanks.
By the time I got the word out, she was already bent over the table again, sparks flying. Nomi Bernard's authentication of the cylinder, in addition to my own research, convinced me that there might be some factual basis to my experience. Enough to believe that I wasn't necessarily losing my mind. And that gave me just enough nerve to dive into the next recording.
Cambridge Station. Next stop, Cambridge Station.
As it turned out, Agents Grigsby and Davis intended to use me as a resource in more than one area. They'd done their research and knew that I had an ongoing friendship with Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. One of the 2 sticking points of McKinley's murder was the so-called missing bullet. The other was the fact that he died not from a bullet wound, but from botulism, something that would have had to have been introduced into his system. No trace of the toxin was found in either his food or his medications. So how was it introduced?
Mr. Houdini? All aboard! Mr. Houdini, over here.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Here.
Holmes had started using a brand new forensic science called ballistics in his trial work, with a high degree of success.
Whoa, whoa. Now.
The agents were hoping he could help shed some light on the missing bullet mystery.
Harry Houdini, here to see Justice Holmes.
Yes, sir. He's expecting you. Right this way, sir.
Harry! Come in.
Holmes was not an overly large man, but the distinctive and deliberate cadence of his voice, combined with the spectacular size and magnificence of his handlebar mustache, always made him seem larger than life.
Oliver, how are you enjoying winter break from the court?
It's good to escape the city for a month or so. And you know Fanny, she much prefers the country. Sometimes I think if she never saw another human again, she'd be perfectly content. And the spring docket is such that I spend all my days in the study preparing for the heavy lifting it will no doubt entail. So we see each other only at dinner, which I can assure you is perfectly to her liking. Mrs. Burns, coffee for my teetotaling guest, please. Whiskey for me. And let's have some of Cook's apple strudel as well.
Certainly, sir.
Thank you. Have a seat, my boy.
Thank you.
Given what little you've told me of your trip today, I've nevertheless taken the liberty of inviting my young assistant, Justin Devereaux, to join us. You said something about bullets, and it was his keen diligence with ballistics that allowed me to prove the Dalloway case. What on earth have you gotten yourself involved in, Harry?
I've been asked by the U.S. Secret Service to assist in re-examination, if you will, of the facts surrounding the McKinley assassination.
Good Lord.
Yes, that was my first reaction as well.
That was a settled case. Proved beyond a doubt. A man was convicted and executed.
Well, someone somewhere in the upper echelons of government is apparently having second thoughts.
Can you give me any particulars?
I expect you've heard of the financier Lyford Dare.
Heard of him. The penultimate New York high society Brahmin. My colleagues on the New York bench have run in with him more than once. Grasping, entitled, takes what doesn't belong to him without compunction, never does his own dirty work, believes he's above the law, wholly superior to everyone, utterly undeserving of his status, unfortunately.
That seems to be the general impression. One more question.
Here you are, sir.
Just sit down, Mrs. Burns. We'll serve ourselves.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. Fine.
Oh, now I've offended her. I'll pay for that one. I half suspect the woman is plotting with Fanny to kill me in my sleep. Oh, your question.
Have you heard of a spiritualist organization called Scylla?
Can't say that I have. Why?
There is some thought that the members of the organization might have been involved in the assassination. And it just so happens that their most significant financial backer is Lyford Dare.
My God.
Indeed.
Thank the Lord, you and I have no argument about this spiritualist rubbish. I know that you and Conan Doyle are great friends, and he could tell a damn good story, but the man is completely off his rocker with respect to this spiritualist bunk. Just barking mad. Sugar?
Just milk, thank you.
So, what's the theory?
That via the spiritualist route, with the help of a very skilled medium, the gullible assassin was essentially brainwashed into doing the bidding of those who wanted McKinley out of the way, for whatever reason.
This kind of anti-democratic, anarchistic madness is exactly what one would expect from Dan and his ilk. And using spiritualism as their cover. These people are truly unsavory. No ethical boundaries whatsoever. This just backs up my belief that these organizations must be exposed and debunked till they run out of town on the rail.
I'm with you, Oliver.
And you are the one person perfectly positioned to do it, Harry. You and Bess have been debunking bogus magicians for years. You know all the tricks. And this is very little different.
Young Mr. Devereaux has arrived, sir.
Excellent, Mrs. Burns. Thank you. Please see him in. If there's a real-world answer to the mystery of McKinley's death, and I am certain there is, Devereaux can likely help us find it. Devereaux, may I present Harry Houdini? Harry, my assistant, Justin Devereaux.
It's an absolute honor, Mr. Houdini.
Pleasure to meet you.
Have a seat.
Not wanting to endanger him with confidential information, I brought young Devereaux up to speed on the missing second bullet. And while naming no names, the fact that botulism was the actual cause of the victim's demise. He was expert enough about his subject matter to quickly come up with a theory.
Anhydrous boron. Anhydrous boron.
Yes, we heard you. Explain!
All right. So, Mr. Houdini, you mentioned that the victim died from botulinum toxin rather than the original wound, but that no traces were found in his food or medications. What you would need then, essentially, would be a glass bullet. One that could dissolve in the body and deliver a dose of Clostridium botulinum. Once in an anaerobic environment, for example, deep in the human abdomen, the bacterium would develop into botulism. It would take several days to develop and would likely show no symptoms until the victim was near death. And the delivery method would have dissolved and become invisible within a few hours of entry.
Does such a weapon exist?
It does. Research and experiments have been underway in the last few years in the creation of a dissolvable hollow glass projectile made from anhydrous boron. A glass bullet, capable of carrying and releasing any manner of toxic material into the body it enters.
Yes, I see. Thank you, Justin.
After giving young Devereaux all due accolades and thanks for his invaluable information, Holmes had Mrs. Burns see him out so we could take a moment to parse out our conclusions.
Not many people would have the resources to do that kind of scientific experimentation.
I think we have a good idea who might.
Yes, I believe we do.
The other answer I want to uncover is why. What was the motivation for murdering a president? This one in particular.
I will see what I can glean from my contacts in Washington. If I believed in such things, I would say these people are evil incarnate. They must be brought to light and exposed.
I agree.
But you must be careful, Harry. They have no compunction, apparently, in taking down a duly elected sitting president.
Understood. I consider myself duly and truly warned.
The deeper I probed into this situation, the more disturbing it became. And Holmes was right. If I was even going to contemplate any sort of debunking activity, I would have to bring Bess, my life partner in all things, into the investigation. We each had our individual skills, which, when joined together, had proved a formidable force in exposing the frauds and charlatans we had successfully unmasked in the world of performance magic. I'd been giving her the details of this case all along, as I learned them. But now it was time to ask if she wanted to be a part of it.
Ma not joining us tonight?
No. A bit under the weather again. Constance had Verity take a light supper up to her room.
Again. That's worrying, isn't it?
It is worrying, yes. I think a doctor's visit might be wise at this point.
That won't be easy. You know Cecilia and her feelings about doctors. But I'll try to convince her when I go up to say goodnight. Who's Verity?
Verity's the new housemaid Constance hired. Day before yesterday. She's very quiet and tries to be well-spoken, but I gather she hasn't had much of an education. And living in a rough environment, apparently. The only decent clothing she has is her new uniform. Constance seems to have taken her on as a bit of a redemption project. She insisted on having the girl fitted for new shoes. The ones she walked in with were little more than ragged bits of leather. But she seems quite bright.
Good for Constance. She's wonderfully practical, but she also has a tender heart. Can you pass me those lemon slices, darling? Thank you. And just as well Ma's not joining us, given what we need to discuss.
I was wondering. Was Oliver able to add any useful details?
He was. He gave me some background on the man who appears to be at the center of everything.
Lyford Dare.
Exactly. No one in Oliver's orbit has anything good to say about him. In Oliver's opinion, he represents everything that's sordid about the privileged class. Grasping, predatory, advantage-seeking.
When you told me about Dare the other day, I mentioned him to Carolina Boswick. I know she and her husband move in those circles, and she always knows everything about everyone. The dirtier the laundry, the quicker and happier she is to air it. Shudder to think what she must say about us.
And?
The same. He is feared and loathed in equal parts, apparently. Utterly self-serving. Whatever hold he may have on a person or organization, he wields it without pity, usually under the guise of some kind of so-called philanthropy.
Like his spiritualist connections.
Exactly.
Well, Oliver seems to believe that you and I, working together, might help flush these people out, the same way we've gone about exposing bogus magicians and other charlatans.
Does Oliver have any idea why Dare or anyone else would target President McKinley?
He's going to try and ferret that out through his political connections back in Washington.
Quite staggering to think that Dare would believe his privilege gives him that kind of overreach. To affect the lives of millions by killing a president.
Yes.
I think we should do this, Harry. Carefully. Together.
I love you.
And I you. Dessert?
I could barely move. When I did, the only thing I could manage was to load the next and last cylinder.
You've been listening to Hindsight, The Day Before, an MHP original audio drama produced by Mark Haynes Productions and Radio Pictures. Written and directed by Kelly Lyons. This premium audio drama is based on Hindsight, an original television series created by Mark Haynes, now in development at MHP. Hindsight, The Day Before, stars Santiago Cabrera as Gabe Strasser, Harry Houdini, Sabangale Malambo as Bess Houdini, M.C. Gainey as Agent Grigsby, Nolan Gerard Funk as Agent Davis, Merrin Dungey as Nomi Bernard, Sarah Botsford as Mrs. Elizabeth Ivory, Aaron Stanford as Josh Peters, Joe DiNicole as Justin Devereaux, Eileen Gruba as Madame Valeria Koslova, D. Taylor Loeb as Jackie Chen, Melinda Peterson as Carolina Boswick, Phil Proctor as William Howe, with Ian Anthony Dale as Lyford Dare and John Goodman as Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. Additional performances by Zach Garrett, Benny Felix, Julia Berglund. Executive produced by Mark Haynes. Series producer Kelly Lyons. Produced by Mark Haynes, Kelly Lyons, and Ted Bonnet. Original score composed by Greg Martin. Editing, technical direction, and sound design by Ted Bonnet. Post-production supervision by Ted Bonnet and Kelly Lyons. Re-recording mixer and Atmos audio production designer Andy Snavely. Casting director Russell Boast. Casting consultant D. Taylor Loeb. Script supervisors Julia Hirsch and Marilyn Miller. Assistant director and unit production manager Camila Contreras. Production coordinator Patty Lynn Poncho. Audio production consultant Brent Kaiser. Sound recordist Jay Kim. Boom operators Chris Sin and Shelley Wen. Production assistants Emily Coscott, Yolanda Jeremia, Cheyenne Sandifer, Julia Berglund, Anya Johnson, Veronica Romero, and Eric Berglund. BTS videographers Ephraim Zapata and Andrew Pimentel. COVID-19 compliance officers Ryan Wally and Annalie Richards. The producers would like to give special thanks to Brian Ackerman, Anita Ackerman, and Ida Hallinan. Hindsight, The Day Before, is an MHP original premium audio drama produced by Mark Haynes Productions, markhaynesproductions.com, and Radio Pictures, radiopictures.com.